So let's get into what is in the big, beautiful bill, which I do believe is its official name. I'm just seeing now. I think it happened so recently, Clay, that all the news sites live and in real time here are still updating.
It legitimately passed as we came on the air. Like that is
yes, as the second
the absolute latest breaking news.
That's why I got all excited. Okay, so it was happening in real time. We got to open the show with, it is past the Senate. 51-50, and J.D. Vance had to step in to, right? J.D. Vance, I'm reading this in real time because it just happened, just so you understand. This wasn't like an hour ago. It happened seconds or minutes ago. 3 Republicans, Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tom Tillis of North Carolina, not running next year, Susan Collins of Maine, joined Democrats to vote against the bill. Paul opposed the legislation's $5 trillion debt limit, et cetera. Okay, so Susan Collins, not a surprise. Rand Paul, being Rand Paul, Trump's probably going to have some truths for him that are not very nice. And Tom Tillis here. Lisa Murkowski was the final piece. She backed the bill after discussions with Thune. 24 hours of motions and amendments. Senate Republican leaders altered the bill right up to the final moments. So this was down to the wire, everyone, to get the things they wanted to get in here. Hundreds of billions for border security, national defense, increased budget deficit by about $3.3 trillion through 2034. Yeah, look, I'll tell you, the White House is very excited about this. I think the economy is going to look really good as a result of this, or rather, there's going to be a lot of good things that happen. Clay, we knew it would get through. Tie-breaking vote from J.D. Vance. So it was a close run thing here. We knew it would get through. It's getting through. Now, okay, the House reconciles it on their end. What are your thoughts as we sit here and bask in the glow of MAGA, another win up on the board?
So I think the big question is going to be how fast can the economy grow? So now that this bill is done, the ability to grow the economy is how we end up keeping from having to massively increase the overall debt. And so that is my biggest question. Can we get this economy moving at 3% growth? Doesn't sound outrageous to me, but it is better than we have been growing the economy over the past decade or so, 15 years on average. And so to me, the biggest question out there is how fast can we grow the economy? To me, the secondary question on this is, can we get the Fed to lower interest rates? Our interest rates are about 2% above where the EU is right now at 4.25, 4.5. You guys can correct me in the studio if I get the percentages wrong. I think the numbers need to be around 2.5, frankly, where the EU is. If that were to happen, then mortgage rates in theory are going to come back. That would unlock the housing market, which is, I think, the most frozen aspect of the American economy right now. So many of you got the 2.5 or 3%, 15 and 30-year mortgages. Congrats. But it's been several years, and we accelerated those so rapidly that lots of people are unwilling to sell their homes or move despite changing life circumstances, because the difference between a 2.5 and a 3 and a 7% mortgage rate is so massively substantial. If that starts to get unfrozen, then I think a lot of the other aspects of the economy will start to fire on all cylinders.
So the House Freedom Caucus, I was asking who's going to cause drama here. I was all excited. Like, okay, this is finally happening. We're looking at a holiday coming up here, a great holiday weekend. Country's kicking ass. Things going really well. House Freedom Caucus says, and this is as of the last 24 hours, House budget framework was cleared. No new deficit spending in the one big beautiful bill. The Senate's version adds $651 billion to the deficit, and that's before interest costs, which nearly double the total. That's not fiscal responsibility. That's not what we agreed to. The Senate must make major changes and should at least be in the ballpark of compliance with the House budget framework. Are they really going to do this? Are they really going to do this?
I think there going to be some drama associated with this, and I think ultimately everybody.
If the drama is just so they get attention and then they let this go through, they're just being annoying. I'm just going to say this because we've already had this discussion.
I get it. This is the best you're going to get. And there's people out there who are going to say, look, Rand Paul's right about the deficit. I think he is. Chip Roy is right about the deficit. I think he is. This is the best bill that's going to pass. And you just saw, I have yet to see anyone come up with a bill that could get passage in the Senate and the House and do as much of this bill does. Politics is the art of the possible. I get people out there that are upset about the debt, the deficit. I am. Look, the reality is nobody wants to address the fact that entitlement spending, Social Security and Medicare, make it virtually impossible to largely restrict the size of the federal government. And as soon as you mention that, we get flooded, and every politician does, with, hey, that money is mine, I want it back. And so the structural issues we have at play here, and this is a challenge, and I don't want to be the want guy, but the structural issues we have in play is there are way more older people now than there are younger people in many advanced countries in the world, and entitlement programs are predicated on there being way more younger people than there are older people. And if you are around our age, the math doesn't add up for us to get the Social Security dollars back that we put in. And that's just the reality without adjusting based on retirement ages, based on just looking at population tables. I presume that I'm going to get virtually nothing from Social Security. That's me. I'm 46. People can start taking Social Security, I think, at 62. So I'm not that far away. Well, I don't think it's going to be there.
This is why I find the whole thing frustrating, and I appreciate that Senator Paul wants to have his voice heard on this, and mathematically he's right, but politically he's wrong, because no one's going to do anything about this right now. And there's no willingness among the American people, even people who say they want to tackle the debt, to do it. It's like having a debt ceiling fight. It's a fake fight because we always raise the debt ceiling, and then if they default, they don't really default. There's discussion about default. They're not really going to default. So it just becomes tiresome, and you lose. It's the boy who cried wolf. You lose public interest. And I think that, until people want to talk about entitlements, just to keep spending the money we have to spend to achieve the priorities of the Republican Party. If we don't have a secure border and we don't deal with the illegal immigration issue, Medicare and Social Security in 30 years is going to be the least of our problems, because we're not going to have a country anymore. So the hundreds of billions of dollars that are going toward border security and the deportation efforts of the illegals who piled in under Biden is absolutely essential. A lot of the things that are covered in the big, beautiful bill are going to be, I believe, rocket fuel for the economy. Growth is also really important. Remember, nobody's factoring in factoring in Trump's tariffs into financial and fiscal matters for the country. It's already $120 billion, and it's just getting going. So, there are other pathways maybe that could be considered here that might make the situation better. I'll say, I know that Trump had to sign it, so I'd forgotten that now the House has to reconcile on their side for a second. And I think they're just going to do what they do. We're going to get a bunch of windy speeches about the debt, and then they're going to vote for it. I don't understand. We all get it. We all understand. There's nothing else to be said. Until you want to deal with entitlements, everybody, you don't want to deal with the debt. End of story, full stop, end of conversation. And nobody wants to deal with entitlements, so let's just do what we can to achieve the agenda we've got while Trump's running things.
I think that there's going to be a recognition that entitlement spending is out of control and everybody's going to have to get their benefits cut. And we should have a real conversation about Social Security and the fact that it's actually not a very good deal. And most Americans just don't really look into it because it's been established for a long time. The government takes your money. They give you a 3% return roughly on it. And if you die,
falling on
never
deaf
get
ears.
it.
You know that. This is all falling on deaf ears. People love Social Security. And you know what the problem is, Clay? The lunatic communists who are certainly right now sitting around, a lot of them praising the Mamdani wing of the Democrat Party, they're not going to get into what you're talking about. They're just going to tell people they're taking your Social Security, and then you lose. And then the communists are in charge, and then they ruin everything. So this is the political reality of America right now, and Trump sees it. And that's why I have my patience for this thing, and my patience even for beyond. Yeah, of course, hear it out, make the case, tell everybody the numbers. But standing in the way of the Trump agenda because you say that you're not getting the cuts you want, you're not getting the cuts. Okay, it's not happening. You're not actually going to deal with the debt. It's $37 trillion. It's not happening.
How many people do you think even understand Social Security? What percentage of the American population?
I mean, they know that they get money when they're older and they need it. I mean, that's all they care to know.
But the fact that it's an awful deal, and if you got to keep your own money and you just put it in index funds, you would.
People don't trust themselves. People don't. They would spend it. People would spend it on a jet ski, and then they'd say, "Oh, but I need help now." And this is the problem. Everybody wants somebody else to pay for their stuff, not realizing that they're the ones paying for the stuff they think is coming from other people.
I think the biggest challenge is it's so embedded now that most people don't even examine the underlying concept, which is basically a big pyramid scheme. And it's predicated on there always being way more young people than there are old people, and we're not in that era anymore.
Clay, the average person pays into Medicare less than half of what they take out of Medicare in terms of the actual cost of their care. But if you tell anybody that you're going to change Medicare, you know what they say? I paid for that. It's not welfare. It's an entitlement. I've paid for it. I deserve it. Okay, well, if I give you money for one ice cream cone, but you keep giving me 2 ice cream cones, you're going to run out of ice cream cones. Nobody wants to hear it. And honestly, I'm excited about the border. I'm excited about saving the country. I'm excited about the Trump agenda being funded. I'm with Stephen Miller on this stuff, man. Like, we got to save the country now, and we'll figure out the debt later when people want to have big boy conversations about it. They don't, actually. The American people do not want to have the conversation.
The answer then becomes the growth rate is everything.
Yep.
Because the growth rate of the country is what can turn this into a net positive bill. So if you are optimistic on AI, if you want to unleash individual American meritocracy, if we ever got the country growing at 4% again, all of these issues vanish, basically, right? 4% a year, 4% a year, 4% a year. We're growing at like 1.5% a year, 1.8% a year. The overall growth rate of the American economy is the key. If overall spending is not going to be addressed, and there doesn't seem to be a political will, unfortunately, as you and I believe there should be. If you look at just the basic books, the political will isn't there to address the spending. And so we live in a magical world.
We have to understand. It's not convincing Republicans to tackle the debt. It's dealing with the fact that Democrats will call you heartless, ruthless, throwing old ladies off their Medicare and taking away Social Security from hardworking Americans so they can seize power and act like communist maniacs. That's the problem. So it's not just like we're having a talk on our side.
And also the concept of cut, which the media, I think, does a poor job of. Slowing the rate of growth is not a cut. It's still a growth, but they have managed to create this idea, well, we're going to dial back the growth of the overall spending, and that is seen as a cut. Oh, you're cutting spending. No, spending's still growing. It's just not growing at the same rate. And honestly, I think a lot of this is just communication failure. I don't think people know the details. I think a lot of people don't care to know the details.
Spoiler alert, it's going to pass, and Trump's going to end up signing it, and everyone who's chirping about this from the Congress in the meantime is going to go along with what's basically there. Just throwing it out there for everybody. But the debt is not being dealt with, that is for sure, and that is why the BRICS conference is so interesting. It's going on next week right around this time. Brazil, Russia, India, China. You know what they're trying to do? Get off the dollar as the world's reserve currency. Why does that matter? Well, that would be a huge lifestyle change for all Americans if that happens. And as it happens over time, it means that we can't fund the things that we fund right now with money printing the same way because other countries aren't going to buy our debt, and we can't just print our way out of whatever our problems are. This is why you need to take action now. Not everything can be solved by this Trump administration. The debt is not going to go away in the next 4 years. Try gold, my friends. Protect your IRA or 401k from the fallout of the money printing reality, from the inflation that's going to continue. With the Birch Gold Group's help, you can diversify into gold. I mean, actual physical gold. You could also transition an IRA or 401k into a gold IRA. Birch Gold is the best at this. This is who you should go with. Text my name, Buck, to 989898. Text BUCK to 989898. That's right. Text my name, Buck, to 989898 today with Birch Gold Group.